Hey, so I'm Rhonda. I worked on a basement house that I ended up holding it for 6 months, which is the longest time that I've ever held a property. And with that particular property, I ran across several issues with that particular property. So, to give you a little bit of background, I purchased the property. I think it was for about $70,000, which is how much I paid for it, but it appraised for $215,000. And it needed about $40,000 worth of work in it. So I quickly purchased it, and there was going to be a great room for profit with it. But I did not realize that a basement is not something. I knew that it had a basement, but I did not realize how much work I was going to have to do with that basement. And so that basement ended up costing me a little bit more than what I expected. And luckily, I planned and prepared for the different expenses that may have come about. We went over budget from what I originally thought that we were going to do, but luckily I saved and prepared for that, and it ended up working out. I was able to sell it. But some of the mistakes that I made along the way, I not only learned from it, but it's something that it will make me remember the next time when I consider buying a house. First of all, in the state of Louisiana, we don't typically have basements because it's very moist here, it's very humid here, and we just don't have a need for basements. We don't have hurricanes, or we don't have, not too often, I should say, but we just don't have a need for it here because the water tables are so high here. So that's mistake number one. I should have looked at it. The second mistake that I made was, I looked at it, but I should have considered those options. The second mistake that I made is that because the basement, the problem that we were having in the basement is that water was getting in. And I just assumed that it was getting in from the sidewalk because the sidewalk was a little uneven or off level. So I just figured that it was from the sidewalk. Well, we repaired the sidewalk area, but the water kept still getting in. Okay, so maybe it's the other side of the sidewalk. Water kept still getting in. So I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So needless to say, I wind up having to put 2 French drains in, one in the front and one in the back. Also, after I did the French drains, which was very costly, I ended up getting some special paint, which ended up working perfectly. And I'll link that down in the bio. But with that particular paint, it was a specialized paint. It was a special sealant paint. And you've seen the commercials where the guy is saying it does not get wet. I think he's like in a boat or something like that, and he's sealing it. And so luckily they actually have a can of paint. It's kind of expensive, but it's worth it. To me, it's a little bit expensive, but it's worth it, and it actually did work. And it has many more uses besides sealing up basements, but you can seal up pretty much anything with it, and it's very thick, and it comes in different colors. So we were able to use that, and we were finally able to seal it, and we were finally able to sell it. That was the only problem that we really had with the house. I couldn't even keep it had so much odor coming from it because it kept getting humid down there, and it was just, oh my God, it was just awful. That was absolutely, I would have to say, my worst flip that I've ever done. But it was the flip that actually taught me the most. The second thing that I learned from this flip is about right of way, so to speak. So on the same property, I knew that this particular property had a septic tank. Well, with the septic tank, I looked at it. That's not very uncommon here in Louisiana. We have septic tanks here in a lot of different areas, especially in our rural areas. So we have septic tanks, and didn't think anything of it. So looked at the septic tank. I got the septic tank checked, and we went on. So we were under contract with a buyer. And so with that buyer, the buyer said, okay, well, I want a good inspection report from the city saying that the septic tank is okay. Okay. So we go to get the inspection done. The health department steps in and they say, well, no, something is going on with the septic tank, And did you know that the septic tank is when it releases the fluids from the septic tank that is flowing into your neighbor's property? So I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, what else could possibly happen? So we talked to the neighbor, and the neighbor said, well, and luckily the neighbor was actually, this was a heir property. So you had two siblings that actually lived on the property, and they all agreed to sell, and they all shared this one driveway. Well, their father was the one who actually built the house, and he was the one who did everything himself. So since he did everything himself, he did it in the way that he wanted to do it. So it wasn't going on their particular property, but it was going on another neighbor's property who refused to give me the right of way for that to continue to drain on his property. Of course, I didn't know that it was draining on his property, and it was just like some seepage from it, and it wasn't like a lot. It's no different than when rain falls, but he still did not want to give that right of way. So long story short, I had to get an attorney involved. I had to do all these type of things that just added up quickly. Luckily, the inspector said that if we paid to, reroute the pipes, then we will be able to pass the inspection. And so that's what we did. We rerouted those pipes, and we were able to finally sell the property. So you want to make sure that you budget, and make sure you leave yourself cushion for any particular things that may possibly happen. You never want anything to happen and you not be prepared financially. Please visit my website at housefliptoolkit.com. Thanks for watching.